Leopold Aschenbrenner, a 24-year-old with no Wall Street track record, turned $225 million into $45 billion using roughly 4 times leverage. Then in just 9 days, it unraveled. As AI stocks plunged, margin calls forced liquidation, and Citadel stepped in, buying roughly a $16 billion portfolio at more than a 10% discount. The timing was remarkable. Many of those same names surged 15% to 27% the very next day, and several had continued climbing since. We're seeing a massive move in the markets since as well. S&P has gone out to make fresh all-time highs. We've got SPX at all-time highs. We got NASDAQ near 30,000 right now. So what really happened? Was this one of the greatest distressed trades ever made, or simply a case of leverage turning a winning long-term thesis into a short-term disaster? Let's talk about it on today's episode of Options Math Check. So lots to unpack here. I think it is, it's an amazing story. And at the end of the day, still a winning story. So can't knock it completely. I think it's always going to come down to how much variance you can withstand. And we will continue to see these stories. It just happens all the time. It doesn't happen all that often, but every single year, I feel like there's some fund that gets liquidated or some kind of blowout, whether it's being short in a product that's having a short squeeze. We saw one, I believe, in natural gas a couple of years ago, a fund that was short natural gas. They couldn't hold it. They got forced liquidated. And you just see these massive green bars to the upside, and you're like, well, what is this? Similar story to leveraged longs and the inability to withstand margin calls. And we talk about this all the time on tastylive. We talk about the ability to withstand variance. You got to withstand variance. Got to keep cash on the side. You can't be super over levered, because really at the end of the day, if you are levered to the point where you can't absorb a 10% sell-off, you can't absorb a 20% sell-off, and I'm talking like the S&P 500, where you're like, nothing's going to happen to where the S&Ps are going to go down 20%. The S&Ps will go down 20% again at some point in the future. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. I can't tell you why it's going to happen. Right now, this is like the most euphoric rally we've seen. You could say a lot of it has to do with the leverage unwind and the fact that the markets are rallying from that point on. But at the end of the day, we have to take the markets for what they are. We have to take them for volatile instruments. Over time, you have a average return in the S&P 500 of 8%-ish. But within each year, you have wars that are announced. You've got the Japanese yen unwind a couple of years ago. You've had tariffs. And within that 8% average return, you've had 20% sell-offs, 30% sell-offs, and then 20% rips, 30% rips to the upside. So you really want to avoid, especially if you're trading long-term positions, you have to avoid the inability to hold positions in a long-term way. So just even looking at the S&P 500, the E-mini futures, just this year, like look at this year. This year's been crazy. We started at 7,000. We dropped all the way down to 6,400. That's a 600-point sell-off, almost 10% right there. Then 2 weeks later, we go from 6,400 all the way up to 7,200 and beyond. We went from 6,400 up to 7,400 in a matter of 2 months. That's 1,000 points to the upside. So if you're piling in shorts into the sell-off thinking we're going to 5,000, you got your face ripped off here to the upside. And same thing here. You thought maybe we're chopping around. There's no way in the beginning of 2026 that we're going to sell off 10%. If you're using too much leverage, you are going to create a scenario where buying power increases, volatility increases, losses are on the table, and that's why trade size is so important. Even over the last 4 days, maybe you saw this downward trend in the E-minis and you're like, you know what? I like these big red bars, followed by a lack of upside movement. And then boom, literally in 4 trading days, we've gone from 7,300 to 7,700 in the S&P 500, and even a bigger gain in the NASDAQ here from 27K to almost 30K, 3,000 points in 4 trading sessions. Absolutely nuts. So I think it's a little bit of both here when the question is, what was this? Could this have been, resolved differently? Could this have been avoided? At the end of the day, if you're trying to turn a couple $100 million into tens of billions of dollars, leverage probably is in play, especially in the short term. So yes and no. But I mean, really, the answer is if you are seeing outsized gains in this regard, where you're seeing massive gains to the upside when markets are moving up, if you're adding leverage or you're not reducing leverage on the way up, things can really fall out of bed on the way to the downside too. So we always have to think, I think the best way to approach trading these markets, especially with leverage products like options trades, like we talk about all the time, is realizing that even if you sell an option that has a 70% probability of expiring out of the money, it still has a 30% probability of expiring in the money. And within that 30%, you've got about a 60% chance that that option is tested at some point in time. If you look at the probability of touch that we've done research on, where probability of touch is basically twice the in the money probability percentage. So 30% in the money, or even a 20% in the money or 10% probability in the money, still has a sizable probability of being tested at some point in time. So you got to keep that in mind when you're trading these things. And that's why, you know, trading super small, keeping cash on the side is really going to be a good recipe for success in the long term. There are times and places to step in with leverage trades. I personally like to do it when we see market downside moves, where you see 10% downside moves in the NASDAQ or the S&Ps. That's what I'm getting in and I'm buying leap options. Like, that's a great example, because we know also if markets are starting to sell off, if you fast forward 6 months, a year, 3 years, the probability that the market is higher in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ specifically is pretty high. So you can position yourself to execute that sort of assumption, but you still have to set yourself up for being wrong in even that regard. So always keeping trade size in check, I think, is super important. But the question is here with this math check too, is like, where is this market going from here on out? We have crude oil markets crushing down to 75. We're seeing not only the current active price getting crushed from the mid 90s to the mid 70s, but for me, the most important thing to keep an eye on, if you're asking yourself, what's the situation overseas and how long is it going to last? Look at the backwardation in these markets. We had a 4 or 5 point backwardation in crude oil. That is now down to a point between the 13-day and the 44-day, and a point between the 44 and 72-day. So still backwardated, but we've been backwardated for quite some time in crude oil markets. This is the first time we've seen a drop below 70 here in the March, April, and May cycles of 2027. So lower prices there, but I think when you think of all these things that are kind of overlapping at the same time, the leverage unwind followed by the market ripping higher. You had Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Meta earnings. Half of them were to the downside, half of them were to the upside, but the ones that were to the downside, Meta and Apple, Meta specifically, completely reversed its move. We dropped 100 points almost after earnings, and we are right back to where we started. Microsoft ripping to new highs, up at 496, almost back at 500. This is up 100 points in 4 days. So there's just so many things that are overlapping here. And even when you look at the divergence that we've been seeing chip stocks moving to the upside, software stocks moving to the downside, or vice versa. You've seen software stocks moving to the downside, chip stocks moving to the upside. Today, right now, we're seeing everything just rip higher. Like an intraday move of 1,000 points in the NASDAQ is pretty wild here. And this is the second day in a row where we've seen the E-minis up over 100 points intraday. Volatility is getting crushed. So it's just like a magnitude of things, a multitude of things happening all at once, which I think is really creating this upside movement here in the markets. But as you might imagine, if we were to look at the probabilities of reaching certain levels in the E-minis at the end of the year, let's go down to the December 31st cycle, all the way at the end of the year. And let's just see where the E-mini futures have the probabilities at. So let's flip this over to Delta. We can look at in the money probability too, all one and the same here. But yeah, we're looking at an expectation in this cycle now, plus or minus 500 points through the end of the year. We've got about half the year left, just under that. And that brings us up to 84, 8,500. So well above the current target. I know at the height of the war, some people were saying we're going to see this market crash and then we're going to see it rip back to 7,700. We're above 7,700 now. So the next call that we're seeing is 8,100. 8,100 is actually within the probabilistic range of outcomes here in the E-mini futures. And same with SPX. SPX, it's going to be a similar reading here, but looking at the end of the year, 8,000, 8,100, well within the implied range, 40% chance that we get there, and we are above there by the expiration in December. and all the way to the upside here. Like, where is our one standard deviation mark? 8,700. So another 1,000 points to the upside. Might seem crazy, but if the market continues the way it is now, where it seems like the overseas activity that created the backwardation in the crude oil markets is moving to the wayside. I think another thing that's interesting outside of the tech stocks and the Mag 7 stocks that have really caught up is just the fact that we are now seeing an interesting change in interest rate probabilities. So if you go check out the CME FedWatch tool, we are seeing a big rise in the probability of staying at the same interest rate that we have now. So that is a stark difference from a couple days ago when we had more uncertainty in these global markets. We had more uncertainty across the board. You had about a 60% probability that we would get a 25 basis point hike in September and a 40% probability that we wouldn't. And now those are kind of flipping. We're kind of at a 50-50 here. So check that out. I think that's really interesting too. I think if we don't hike rates again, that might be one of those reasons or catalysts to why you're seeing the market move to the upside right now. But all that to say, let me know what you think in the comments below, and always join us on the YouTube chat if you can. We're always streaming live there on the tastylive channel. But yeah, E-mini's up 150 right now. NASDAQ about to tick 1,000. Can we do it live? I don't think we can. But crazy day all across the board. But yeah, I think really markets ripping higher, volatility getting crushed, crude oil markets getting crushed, backwardation, flat now. All these things are pointing to up and to the right, unless we have another catalyst or something that comes into the market and introduces stress. But for now, it is up and to the right, or at least it has been over the last couple of days, and it's been a wild one. Hopefully you've been able to get some nice trades in there. But that's it for me. We'll see you on the next episode of Options Math Check.